Well, as activity in the Pacific picks up, the start of the Atlantic hurricane season is just about to kick off. Meteorologists at the National Hurricane Center in Miami are preparing as the season officially begins on Sunday.
And that's where we find our Fox Weather hurricane specialist, Brian Norcross, this morning. Brian, good morning. Joining us from the NHC in Miami. So you're where all the forecasts, all the products are made, the ones that, in fact, we just showed. I'd say it's quiet this morning at the NHC, but I doubt that that's ever true, even in the off season.
Well, no, it's actually a busy morning here at the National Hurricane Center. And good morning, Stephen and Britta. We are here, of course, and media from all over is here, as this is the day that we really start thinking about hurricane season 2025. And Dr. Mike Brennan, the director of the Hurricane Center, here with us. Mike, thanks for being on Fox Weather this morning. You had a successful year of forecasting here last year, set records. What's new this year, and what kind of technology or thinking are you going to employ this year that could build on last year?
Yeah, we're always trying to learn from the successes and struggles from previous years and what lessons we can take forward to improving forecasts this year. We've made a lot of progress in forecasting rapid intensification in the last few years, and that's going to be important going forward. We've got a new GOES satellite that's sitting out over the Atlantic and the eastern United States that we're already using now, and that's sort of our primary tool we look at to monitor what's going on in the tropics. We're going to be upgrading NOAA's hurricane analysis and forecast system hurricane models in July, hoping for some improvements there as well.
You talk about models. Of course, we have the traditional models and the HFAS, the new hurricane model that gets improved every year, I guess, now. But we also have the AI models coming along. How are you going to incorporate them in your thinking this year?
Yeah, this is going to be a year where we start to really take in and evaluate some of the AI model guidance from various producers, and we're going to pull that into our systems here and evaluate it, look at it in the context of the traditional modeling that we use to make our forecast, do some evaluations, and start to learn how we might be able to incorporate that into our forecast process.
So the best forecasts are not from any one individual model, they're from the averages of models, and these days the smart averages, we'll call it. Are the AI models going to be part of that, or are they going to be kind of just viewed in parallel and see how they're going to work and maybe eventually get more incorporated?
Yeah, they're not going to be part of our official sort of consensus or blended models this year, but we may make some additional ones on the side that we're going to test out and see how they do and perform. I think especially for track, there's a lot of promise on the AI side for some potential improvements in the near term. Intensity might take a little bit longer, but again, it's important for us to look at it ourselves, do our own evaluation, and see how it fits in.
You made good progress on intensity. I remember there was a time not that long ago that we thought, all right, maybe this is it. Maybe this is it's just too complicated. Maybe this is the best we can do. To what do you attribute that progress just in these last few years?
It's really sustained investment, going all the way back to the time of Katrina, after that Hurricane Forecast Improvement Project began, and really invested a lot in model development, first with HWRF and now HAVS, getting data from the Hurricane Hunter aircraft into those models and getting better guidance to our forecasters, and also improving our understanding of how intensity works, and particularly rapid intensification. Our intensity errors now are about half of what they were 20 years ago, so we have finally started to make progress.
I think it's important for people to realize the way things get funded and things happen, and usually it comes about because of some big disaster, Katrina or a Sandy, right? Is that a reality?
Yeah, you could look at the improvements we made in storm surge forecasting. A lot of that started after Katrina and was sort of energized again after Sandy in 2012, but we now have a storm surge watch warning, we have much better modeling, risk mapping. So we take and learn from the challenges that we have, but it takes years of investment, development, transitioning it to tools we can eventually use here at the Hurricane Center that then pay dividends in the forecast.
All right, Mike, we'll be paying lots of attention to what you're doing this year. And we talked to Mike just a few minutes ago on a big, long interview. You're going to see that coming up on Sunday on our special hurricane season kickoff special at noon. And on Monday, I'll be along as well, and we'll talk about Hurricane HQ&A. In other words, we're going to answer your hurricane questions. So thanks, Mike. As always, lots of work to do this hurricane season.
Thanks, Brian.
Brian, it's Britta. Before you let Mike go, I just had one question that I wanted you to ask him. You know, you can have a solid forecast, and for example, I'm thinking about Helene just because it's the most recent example. You have these aggressive words like biblical flood event, historic. The forecast is strong, but then still post-event, when you talk to people that lived through the experience, there seems to be a gap between strong science and individuals, residents actually grasping onto how bad it's going to be. At the Hurricane Center, is there any growth process in trying to close that gap? And how do we go about that as scientists, closing that gap between strong science and getting folks to really grasp what that means for their reality?
Yeah, I think that's the age-old question. Britta asked the question, for instance, with Helene last year, made an excellent forecast, an aggressive forecast, talked about the potential for tremendous flooding. The National Weather Service in North Carolina talked about this potential. We were aware that really bad things could happen, but then after the fact, you go talk to people on the ground, and they say, we didn't know that it could be this bad. Yeah. How do you see bridging that gap or bringing the understanding closer to reality in terms of what we know scientifically?
Yeah, as we talked about earlier, it's all about messaging risk and trying to convey that to people. And it is difficult because people need to remember that no matter where you've lived and how long you've lived there, you probably have not seen the worst thing that can happen in terms of flooding or wind or storm surge. So it's important to convey that risk to people and visualize what those impacts are. The National Weather Service is rolling out flood inundation mapping to help provide a picture of, when we're talking about 30 inches of rain, well, what does that actually look like in terms of flooding in a community? And there were undoubtedly lives saved. There were evacuations done in Western North Carolina, but there was tremendous impact and loss of life, and we learn and get better from that, much as we did from Sandy or Katrina on the storm surge side. We're now moving into that realm for freshwater flooding. Yeah,
it's like if we have a hurricane in the Northeast. Most people are not going to have seen that and have real feeling for what that could be. All right, Mike, thanks very much.
Yeah, good
Stephen,
stuff. Brian, really looking forward to that special that we have this weekend. Thanks for the time this morning, and send our regards to Mike as well. Brian Norcross at the NHC this morning. Okay, Brian, thank you.